Francisco Fierro Palas was active from the 1820s to the 1860s. In that time, he was the leading painter in Lima, Peru, in the early Republican era. Fierro was born into an extremely upper-class family, but under circumstances that complicated his life. His father was a young priest, and his mother was an Afro-Peruvian working person, a domestic worker presumably, in the household. He learned to paint from a man named Francisco Cortés, and the two of them essentially created what became the costumbrista school of 19th century Peruvian watercolors. Costumbrista means customs, also costumes, but the showing of the ordinary people and their daily life and how they dressed and how they behaved. And this became an explosive subject of popular art in Lima in the early 19th century. One of the most remarkable objects anywhere in the collections of the Hispanic Society is this scroll, which is well over 15 feet long, and shows the St. Augustine Street, the Calle de San Agustin, in Lima during Holy Week, the week before Easter, when processions are held typically in the streets of Hispanic cities worldwide. Here we have an interesting psychological note. As the image of death passes, a young woman has fainted on the balcony of her house. We see this immense psychological interest, which is what makes his art so very interesting. We have a beer factory, a clock shop, a hat shop, a bookstore. The life of the city is laid out before us in a panoramic procession. Pancho Fierro, who's now maybe at the midpoint of his career, who's gotten more skills as an artist, but still wants you to engage with that figure. Here we have a pilgrimage on one of these equestrian figures again. We have a woman selling the chicha beer to a young man out in the plaza. So we have these scenes of everyday life, and they have a kind of a sequence and they make sense. We get a feeling for what life was like in those days. So these were extraordinary objects that had a world distribution. And here at the Hispanic Society, we've been leading over the past 3 years an international humanities-led scientific research on 19th century South American watercolors and their Chinese imitators. So that this has become now not only a scholarly, but also a scientific research project, producing all sorts of interesting results about pigments, about papers, about commercial networks. And to sum it up, this is a phenomenon that's much bigger than just a bunch of pretty pictures. It not only tells us about a society that has a lot to teach our society in North America today, but it also teaches us a lot about the world at a point when it was already getting very small.